Hey there, everyone. Welcome to CREST Online Training, Part 1, Editing, Lesson 15, Winding Up Usage, Subject Verb Agreement. On our last video, you watched how to draw an anchor chart that I called Spider-Man 1, where we connect our subject to a predicate using Spider-Man's webs. And the reminder is that is the subject, the person, place, thing, or idea singular, or is it plural, people, places, things, or ideas? Then we have a web for a simple sentence, and it's connected to a street that we pave, the predicate, the action, the verb, and the ending. I stomp both feet. You have to have a stop sign. So we drew a little anchor chart, and I want to show you briefly in my folder. The graphic organizer has the cups that we talked about, and one of the two ways I'm going to show you today is how to use Spider-Man usage, because we've talked about everything else already. Uh, the reason that he's there is we can disconnect his head from his body. So we can say, okay, we've got a subject, the person, the place, the thing, the idea, or the predicate, the people, the places, the things, or the ideas. Is the subject singular? That's why he's holding one finger. Is the subject plural, more than one? Is it simple, which you should start with? Or is it compound? Is there a predicate? And if you notice the acronym PAVE, a sentence, S, is like a street, S, that you pave with a subject, S, and a predicate, the action, the verb, and an ending. So remind your kids that Spider-Man has these red shoes called a period, an exclamation, or question mark. Whenever they ask a CUPS, C-U-P-S question, capitalization, usage, punctuation, or spelling, it's going to say what change, underline change, label CUPS. That means the mistake would be one of these four: capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling. And every time I'm using one of these, I have so many I can use my regular paper ones, but you might want to laminate some as soon as possible so that you can use them over and over. And on the test, your kids can write out cups, and they'll just have to remember all of these little pictures, because a picture paints 1,000 words, and it's going to help your kids. So the hardest one is this one, usage, because sometimes they're asking about a question that has a problem with usage, something to do with, is it singular or plural, the subject, how is it being used? Is it past, back up, present, right now, or future? Well, sometimes you can't check the problem on the sentence they're asking about. We've got to check the previous or the following sentence. So we did all of that on Spider-Man 1. But sometimes, in order to get correct usage, we've got to play around the words in 80 ways to say, let's have the same content, but let's share it in a different way where we change the order. So for this one, there's your anchor chart that you looked at or did if you were helping, if you were doing it yesterday. What I would like to know is, does there exist something that we can do to help kids understand how to do introductory phrases with commas and dependent clauses, which are complex sentences, dependent clause that has a subject and a predicate, but it's just dependent on the independent clause to make it sound complete and correct. and we practiced it several times with you, that if you don't want to start with a subject, you might start with one of these yellow adverbs. So the colors really don't matter so much. I gave my suggested color when I drew it yesterday, but as you see, there's some arrows pointing up and say, you know what, I did diagramming when I was a kid, but I want to teach the students how to connect sentences using something more creative. Well, then use Spider-Man, because there's a how, a why, a where, or a when that you might do something, or the subject might do something. And there's something that we sometimes call opposite or other, which is this part down here. All right. So when we take a look at the saying that I introduced to you, it said to start. So I start moving, put an S on my shirt with, I'm going to need that web, how, why, where, oh, or you can put an O on your watch first. Oh, when, you often put a comma then. In other words, tell me when you did something first, or how, where, why, or an other statement and the opposite statement. So the easiest way to teach that is to actually practice the concept. So I have it sort of in two ways. So if you go to page 158 in the binder, you can see some longer phrases, and I have a different color for each one, but you might decide, oh, I'm going to call adverbs, when I'm adding a verb, in this case at the beginning of the sentence, then I'm going to add it to the front. So the examples are, and I'll kind of blow this up just a little bit so you can see just the ones that we're talking about here. All right, let me get my little spotlight so you can follow it along. All right, how, capital, in a very quiet manner, comma, Maria walked up to her teacher, apostrophe S, desk to ask a question, period. So if you flip it to the normal subject first, Maria walked up to her teacher's desk to ask a question in a very quiet manner. When the how is after the subject and the predicate, then you don't need a comma. Capital, very politely and kindly, comma, bouncing on the table. My friend helped the old woman with her groceries. Flip it, capital. My friend helped the old woman with her groceries very politely and kindly, period. Why are you doing something? Because you have been behaving so well in class today, you won't have any homework. That's the why. Capital, since capital I, haven't, have not eaten breakfast, comma, my stomach is really growling a lot right now, period. Why do I keep doing it with my left hand? Because my mouse is on the words that I'm reading. Where do you do something? Capital, beneath the seats, where, at the movie theater, where, comma. So if I say beneath the seats, that's only 3 words. So I don't necessarily need just an introductory phrase, because you can see there's no subject or predicate here. It's just saying where something is. So if I just say beneath the seats, there was a beautiful diamond necklace. If you look it up online, it'll call it an optional comma with short phrases. But whenever you tell me 2 wheres, put them together, beneath the seats where, at the movie theater, where, comma, there was a beautiful diamond necklace, period, bouncing my imaginary ball down on the floor. Where, capital, from across the room, comma, my sister was laughing and making fun of me, compound predicate, period. When, capital, in the wee hours of the morning, comma, capital, I love to go jogging. Who's the subject? I. What do you do? What do you love? To go jogging around my neighborhood. So because that where is at the end, then you don't need a comma to separate it. Capital. After the STAR test, put a little bit more space there, Mr. McDonald, was over, comma, the students began to celebrate in relief. So there's lots of examples there. And what you might do is say, all right, well, let's practice to start with how, why, where, oh, when. You often put a comma then. Have them maybe do this first one. See how many we got here. We have our how, why, where, or when. I would say practice doing the how with your whole class. Make one together. Practice doing the why one. The concept is similar in a group. The where example, just with one partner, and the when solo. Class, group, partner, solo. That's in alphabetical order. If you teach Spanish, clase, grupo, pareja, solo. So what else do I have that can help you practice this? Because sometimes kids just don't get it. They need extra time. And so if you go to page 161, there you see it again. To start with how, to start with how, why, where, oh, or oh, when, you often put a comma, then the independent clause and a period. So circle the correct sentence structure below that describes the sentences. English, English past, present, future. Try and write your own sentences following the same structure as the example in the sentence. Let me blow that up large enough so you can actually see it. All right. So I have Spanish students. I have dual language. Well, then here you go if you want to help them. English, Spanish. Translate the sentence above in Spanish on the lines below. My friends and I did our homework. Circle the correct sentence structure that describe this sentence. Well, my friends and I, well, that is the subject is compound because it has two different subjects. My friends is one of the subjects, and I is the second subject, and the predicate, did our homework. Well, we did it in past tense, and the action, the verb, the ending. We did. Our homework is the action. And I could extend and say, that's in past tense, period. And so I will make sure I remember to draw a period here at the end of this sentence. There we go. And so here's the cool thing. Whenever you're joining a compound subject, you could say this one body here has two heads because my friends did the homework and I did the homework. So that's how you could do that one. You want to have a dual language concept that is similar. Here's a Spanish. Write the word in Spanish, the sentences in Spanish for your kids, and then have them go ahead and practice the concept. Uh, Same thing, but this is Spanish. An adverb. I have still the concept, the simple sentence. My friends and I did our homework, working very carefully and slowly. So if I play around the words in 80 ways, I could remember, it says, read the sentences below orally and verbalize the capitalization, punctuation, introductory phrase, and complex sentence, at least one dependent clause. Write each sentence below again by starting with the yellow words and a comma. Capital, working very slowly, carefully and slowly, comma, how my friends and I did our homework, period. A why, the reason. Well, let's just write one here and see if we can get it to come out. It says to change, play around the words in 80 ways, move the Y to the front because it was due tomorrow. My friends, remember the capital. It's not the beginning of the sentence anymore. Friends and I did our homework. Again, you might try that as a class. Then you say, okay, let's try this next one as a group, because all you're doing is moving the adverb or adverbs to the front of the sentence. So I can see it says in the corner where of the library where by the window. So if you have several where locations, you could write them all first and then separate them with the comma. My, still the same introductory independent clause. My friends and I did our homework. Okay. Period. Gotta stop the sentence. So the last one that we'll do together, number 4, says you're still doing the homework, but then you're telling me where. No, you're telling me when you're doing the homework. So we would start with capital in the wee hours of the morning. Done? No. Before space, before breakfast, my friends and I did our homework, period. So let's say if that one was a class, this first one here, then the second one could be with a group. Then you can try one with a partner, and then whatever you have left on a class on a sheet, you could do number 5 and 6 with a solo that no one helps you. So to extend with punctuation because of the comma that's there and the period, remember the concept that we learned in punctuation for using a yellow ball or bouncing on the table or up in the air for slowing down punctuation. A, for tossing it, put it on the table for punctuation marks like commas, colons, and semicolons. In Spanish, we have these things called acento, which is up in the air, acento, enya up in the air, the guiones when you're talking, or the, I can't remember what that one's called, the, maybe it's the diéresis. I haven't practiced my Spanish in a while, so maybe help me with that one if you think of it. And so that's what I would suggest that you do to practice introducing the different ways that a sentence can be written. Because if they say to your students, what is the best revision that could be made in sentence 6? Well, it's got the same content, it has the same meaning. You're just changing the order. If it doesn't sound good the way it is written with the subject and the predicate first, you can put the adverb in the front and then you'll be fine. So something that I think will be helpful is that when I get past the usage pages, what I've done for you guys is I've italicized the usage mistake, and there's again about 10 to 12 of these. I've italicized the usage mistake so you can practice in a sentence. Sometimes there's only one mistake. And so when you hear the sentence and not just see the sentence because you're saying the sentence, you're going to realize that it doesn't sound right. And people ask me, why did you italicize the words that were wrong? Well, I just want them to know, because we're just learning the skill, which one has a problem. And if you decide to print this in black and white, your students will still be able to see, oh, the one that's slanted, italicized is the one that's a problem. So if you say capital, a good friends will see through your flaws and still love you, period. Well, I think that what I was trying to say was not friends. It would be a good friend because of the word a being singular. All I would have to do is that right there. Capital. I don't wanting to be normal because no one likes a average person. Well, I don't wanting to be normal. Doesn't sound right. I don't yet. Wanting is a word. He is wanting to come to my house, but that's not the usage situation that we are using. So I don't want to be normal. And then over here, average. I taught you a special little trick, what you would want to do. It doesn't sound right. So if we were to say, how do I apply a rule that has to do with a vowel? Well, I said that there's a rule that we can call, and I'll write it down so you can write it down as well. It's called opposites. Tract, which means if I have a vowel sound like then I need a consonant at the beginning. But since the word average is stuck the way it is, then I need an opposite. I need a consonant ending and average. So if we put that together and see how it sounds, I don't want to be normal because no one likes an average person. So if the word average was a consonant sound, careless. No one likes a careless person. Well, if I was to switch to careless, because it does have a vowel, then I need a consonant sound to start the next word, a careless person. And then uh, do an extension with this one probably, where you do a couple more examples in practice. So when you're working on usage, there's all these open-ended ones that you can try, and uh, let's say you only have a little bit of time. And again, you could do the 5-minute rule. You can do the 1-minute rule. Just do however many you can do in 1 minute if you're just trying to get uh, the skill practiced. And if you see an issue or too many kids are having trouble, just remember that there's this concept I shared with you. I'll put it right here. Let's say you get to this one and the kids are struggling with it. You can do what we call TMI moments, where there's not too much information. Maybe there wasn't enough information given. So you can do teachable moments of instruction. If you feel like the concept isn't being learned by everyone, or teachable moments of intervention, when you're noticing that too many students aren't getting it, stop the lesson and fix the issue before you go on. And I think that we'll have a lot less problems when we do that. So that was Spider-Man 2. You can also draw him, but I would suggest maybe follow the patterns that we did in Spider-Man 1 and just move uh, the adverbs to the top. We were using orange for adverbs, and so they would come before the subjects. And whenever we talk about adjectives adding to the noun, we could talk about how many or what kind or what shape or what color. Those are all, anything that talks about more information about the noun, the person, place, thing, or idea. That's an adjective. So you could put just that in front of the noun, keeping in mind that if you have two adjectives describing one noun, you've got to decide if you can use the word and between them. Bill is a smart, thoughtful person. Do I need a comma? Let's find out. Capital Bill is a smart and thoughtful person. It works by putting the word and between them. Bill is a thoughtful and smart person. So when you switch them around, then you can put that comma. Bill is a smart, comma, helpful person, whatever describing me. And the way the non-example is usually with numbers. I really like those two, how many, nice, what kind, people. When you do the test, I like those two and nice people. It doesn't make sense. So you would not put a comma between two and nice. If I flip it, I really like those nice and two people. It still doesn't make sense. So you don't usually need a comma when you're telling me how many. So just check that, do that little check by putting the word and between them or switching the order. And if both work, then you know that you can add that adjective to the noun. So we'll do one more video on usage, capitalization, punctuation, spelling. When you're done with all of that, there is a unit on usage, and I'll make sure I mention it if you want to practice in a passage format. And then what I would recommend that you do, instead of practicing full-length passages for cups, run-ons, and fragments. Go to the section of my binder where you can practice single sentence, and I'll kind of show that on my last video about usage to make sure that you can have lots of practice. I think I have like 10 different tests of maybe 10 or 15 questions where it's just one sentence that's got a problem that needs to be changed, cups, or that needs to be corrected, sentence or sentences, run-ons or fragments, where you write raw or sap or fast. So that will be next lesson, will be our last usage lesson. And hopefully you're excited, you're enjoying whatever you're doing this week, no matter when you're watching it. And we'll see you next time as we wrap out part 1 editing with some mixed cups practice on the sentence level before we try to get kids to do it on the paragraph or passage level. You guys have yourself a wonderful day, and thanks for the kind words. Go ahead and as your challenge, if you want the extra points, draw an anchor chart with Spider-Man 2, send it to me, make it as creative and out of the box as you want. And I just feel like it's a more interesting, unusual, creative way. Ooh, adjectives that describe a noun, so we would need some commas there. So take care and have a blessed day.